Marvel boasts a number of heroes, and honestly, I'm not too familiar when it comes to Miss Marvel, but after watching this season of Miss Marvel on Disney Plus, I fair to say I become a fan of Kamala Khan. Miss Marvel focuses on Kamala Khan's rise to superheroics, as we focus on how she got her powers and how she becomes Miss Marvel. Watching a teenager struggle through supernatural powers is nothing new in the world of the MCU, but I do like the fact that they took Kamala Khan's origins as a Muslim into account. Miss Marvel wonderfully blended in the natural world of Muslim culture along with superheroics and how it blended into Kamala Khan's life. I really liked how we got focus on a whole big Muslim wedding, mosque, praying, and even the injustices when it comes to male versus females in the Muslim community. I also like how it highlighted the fact that Muslims are no different than you or I, just simply people living their lives, showing the struggles of Muslims in modern day life. Kamala Khan's line how the brown girl isn't the one to save the day was very true how we face real life.
Bismillah. Bless you.
Now, a subject of controversy for the show has been Kamala Khan's powers. In the comics, she had embiggen powers, which enabled her to increase her body parts, such as her arms or legs, to make herself stronger. And now, in the show, she has more of a connection to Jinn and Noor and supernatural other dimensional stuff. Personally, while I can see why some people aren't too happy about it, I do think the change is nice and welcome. Her powers are pretty interesting, not to mention they do make an allusion to her whole embiggen powers towards the last episode, so not all is lost there. What I do think is a problem is the visualization when it comes to the powers itself. At this time, Marvel has extended the number of projects to a very large degree. They used to have a couple of movies a year, now they have a couple of movies along with a bunch of shows on Disney+, and I think this is really straining the VFX artists. For the most part, Miss Marvel's CGI was serviceable, but there were some moments where it just did not look good, and that's kind of a problem if they're going to keep the schedule going forward. Most of the characters Miss Marvel help really bring this show to an MCU high. Her family is nice and well-rounded, although I don't like how wishy-washy her mother was at the beginning, being super protective and then just letting her daughter being a hero towards the end. A bit weird, but it's acceptable. I especially like the bond she had with people her own age, like with Bruno and Nakia. Bruno, who clearly was pining for her affection, being as supportive as best he can, and Nakia, that no-nonsense best friend, who she can also impart her own personal truths to when she needs to. Although I do wish the plot surrounding Kamran was a bit stronger. I mean, he was just there to be, like, watching Kamala, then all of a sudden he runs away with her, and then all of a sudden he's the bad guy towards the end, kind of. A little too wishy-washy there. I also think the red daggers were a bit wasted as well. Only really showed up for a couple of scenes. But honestly, the biggest character assassination in the show had to have been the villains, neither which were any good. Two villains we had were that Jinn gang and Damage Control, and both of them suffered from not being threatening, at least a little bit. Kamala ultimately went up against the Jinn gang because they weren't willing to wait for Kamala to find a non-lethal method of getting them back home, which was completely ridiculous. Damage control was just as bad. As damage control, they were supposed to keep damage to a minimum or mitigate it, but instead, they were causing all this trouble just to capture one teenager. Completely embarrassing. It's disappointing the villains were so lackluster in Miss Marvel, but honestly, that flashback scene with Aisha in episode 5 really made up for it. And honestly, was it me, but was anyone else gushing over the woman who played Aisha? She was such a beauty. Overall, Miss Marvel is a wonderful coming-of-age story for a Muslim superhero with a wonderful community and supporting family. The villains are nothing to talk about, and it's rather disappointing, and the CGI could use a bit of work, but anyone who's a fan of the MCU should give this a watch. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, try to give a like or leave a comment. If you didn't like what you saw, try to leave me some feedback to see in ways I can improve. Thank you. Have a nice day.